Are you ready to unlock the full potential of your business data? Whether you're running a small business or you're stepping into data engineering, learning how to pull data from your existing systems is a game changer. And with free tools such as Power BI, SQL Server, and Azure Studio, you don't have to break the bank in order to learn these new skills. Welcome back to the Data Engineering Channel. I'm Chris, and with 25 years of experience in the data realm, I'm here to take complex data concepts and break them down into actionable insights. Today, we're going to be talking about how to break into data engineering and data analytics without breaking the bank. So, we're going to talk about some free tools that you could use, download, and use immediately. I'm going to show you where to download them and how to pull data from your existing systems into those tools. So, join me on your journey into a data-driven culture. So today we're going to start with Power BI. Power BI is Microsoft's powerful visualization tool. And with Power BI, you could create stunning reports and visuals to help you to make data-driven decisions. You could take data from Excel sheets, from other systems, from SQL Server, put them into Power BI, and create charts and graphs and dynamic tables to help you to make good business decisions. So let's jump in. I'm going to show you how to download this free tool and then walk you through a couple of examples of how you could integrate your existing data into it. All right, let's download your first free tool. First one, Microsoft Power BI Desktop. So follow the link that's down in the description to get to this site. From here, you'll select the language. Obviously, I'm going to choose English. I'm going to hit download. It's going to tell you the files that you need to download. I would choose both of them. One is your 64-bit, one is your 32-bit. So you could choose whichever one fits your machine the best. Hit download. It'll give you the the next step, it'll show you the directory that you need to download your file to. You'll hit save. And this is just the install scripts. Once it's downloaded, you'll go to the folder, double click on the executable packet. The first one is wrapping up and it says done. And I could just go right here, click on the folder icon. It'll take me directly to my folder where the install package is. You can just, again, double click on the file. It's going to tell me that I already have it installed. Once you double click, it'll bring up the install program. You'll choose your language. I'll leave it at English. Hit next. The user access control is going to come up asking you if you're going to allow the app to make a change to your device. You'll hit yes. And then it will come up and you'll hit next. You'll agree to the license agreement. Feel free to read that at your leisure. You'll hit next. From here, you could choose a different location for it to install the actual program. Generally, you'll leave it under your program files. Again, hit next, hit install. It's going to install Microsoft Power BI onto your computer. So it's as easy as that. Nothing complex here, pretty straightforward, pretty normal in comparison to any other programs that you may have installed on your computer, such as QuickBooks. And once it's complete, then you will have Power BI on your desktop. And from there, you could make your own reports. Even if you don't have a SQL Server set up, you don't have to have anything super fancy like a database. You could be directly linking to Excel files if that's all you have. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. And there it is, completed. So now that we have Power BI Desktop installed on our device, we could open up the program. You may have chosen to open it up by default when you went through the install process. You'll see that there's some examples of data sources that you could start with. Blank report is generally where I start, but you could directly start by clicking on Excel workbook and then choosing an Excel workbook on your computer. It's going to go directly to your file explorer, and you could go into your files, and we could find an Excel file. Let's go here and let's do sales data sample. You'll see that you'll see that if it has multiple tabs on it, you'll be able to choose from the multiple tabs on your Excel workbook. We just have one in this one, so we're going to click on that. You'll see that it is organized in columns and rows. So the columns have field names on them and the rows have like data stored in them. We're going to hit load. And what that's going to do is it's going to read that Excel file into Power BI. Once we have that data in there, you'll see on the left-hand side, you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, all of the table and the associated fields in that table. So that is your Excel file that it just uploaded into Power BI. Now, from here, if you just wanted to create a table, you could literally just click on the fields. Let's say we want to start with the customer name. We click on that. We click on the month ID. I think there was a year ID in here. We've got a quarter ID, year ID, and then price each, and quantity ordered, and sales. So what this will tell me is probably, we're going to drop out price each and sales. So what this will tell me is things that I don't want to know. So when you click on those buttons, you'll see that it's pulling stuff in, your customer name, account of the month ID, account of the quarter ID. It's not necessarily how you want to see that table, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make some changes to this. We could resize this table by clicking and dragging any of the these are called anchors. So the corner, the sides, you could grab any of those and resize your table. You'll see the customer names all came in fine, but obviously the month ID, quarter ID, and year ID, these are not necessarily the format that we want, right? It's counting those instead of actually just giving us the values. So to change that, you'll see that it put in the columns box here all of the columns that we clicked on the check marks for. So if you click on this little down arrow, we could say don't summarize. And we're going to do the same thing for the quarter ID and the year ID. So what that's going to do is group our customers by month, quarter, and year, and give us the sum of the quantity ordered. So we have the sum of the quantity ordered. We know the count of items that they ordered for each of those months, for each of those years. That's interesting to know, but maybe what we really want to know is what were the total sales for those months for those customers. So let's drop in our sales, and now we have a sum of sales that it quickly calculated for us, almost in an instant. So that's cool. Now, the other cool thing is, let's click on where it says sum of sales. And what that's going to do is it is going to order our table by the greatest sale all the way at the top, all the way down to the customer with the lowest sales for a given month. So we see that Tokyo Collectibles Limited in April of 2005 had $553.95 of sales that they purchased from our company. And then we have Euro Shopping Channel in December of 2004 ordered $133,588 from us. So that's really cool. Tells us a bunch of interesting things. But you know what? I want to see visually how that looks. So let's say I want a bar chart of by month what my total sales were. So we're going to say clustered bar chart. Let's throw the year ID in the y-axis. We're going to throw the sales in the x-axis. And what that's going to do is it's going to tell us by year what our total sales were. So we see that we had about $4.5 million in 2004, $3.5 million ish in 2003. So we say 3, 5, 16. And then in 2005, it was about 1 3/4. So that tells us some interesting stats about by year. But let's throw one extra thing in here. Let's throw customer name into the legend. Now, that looks crazy, right? I can't see it. There's just too much. Let's change this chart. We're going to change this chart to a stacked bar chart instead. And we kind of see, we still see our totals by year, which is really cool. We see the colors for all the different customers, and we could hover over and kind of see that, okay, we knew that Euro Shopping Channel is one of our biggest customers. We see they have the biggest color in that bar chart, and we could actually just hover over each of those different sections and see who that customer was and what their total sales were for that year. So it quickly tells you quickly tells you visually who your biggest customers were for the year and what your total sales were for the year. There's a ton of stuff that you could do with this. There's much more advanced things. You could change the name of these different fields by double clicking on them in the middle, in the center right hand column here. And you could just call this total sales. And we could change this to year so it doesn't have the ID on there. And let's change this to customer name so that it's a little bit more readable. So now we see it says changes to total sales by year and customer name. There are a ton of other things that we could do. We could change, instead of having the legend be customer name, maybe we want the legend to be month ID. And we want to see, okay, by month, what our biggest sales were. So we could easily see quickly that November is a pretty big month for us. Both in 2004 and in 2003, we had really big months in November. So we could anticipate potentially that we're going to have another big year in 2005. Now, this is age data that we pulled from just some sample data out there, and it's all anonymized. These are not real customers, but the same thing can be done with your business. You'd be able to see trends and try to anticipate where your biggest sales are. Let's say instead we wanted to see, okay, by product line. We could drop in that product line instead, and we could see that for classic cars, is really where most of our sales are driven from. In addition, vintage cars is probably second. We could change this into pie chart and see by year where all of our sales were total from 2004 through 2000, or from 2003 through 2005 so far. And we could see that obviously 2004 was a big chunk of our sales. 2003 is probably when the business just started, and obviously 2005 was not complete yet. But we could also see that for each of those years, where each of those biggest sections are. So if you want to do it as a pie chart, then you can do a pie chart. If you want both, you can do both. Now, here's a cool thing. Let's say I want to see what this is, but I want to see the data behind it too. If I click on this, it's going to change my table to filter for just that specific data from that slice of that pie. So now we see literally what each of those items were for that slice of the pie, which of our customers, and how much they purchased from us for vintage cars for 2004. There are a ton of different ways that you could slice this. I don't have time to get into all of them here. Feel free to ping me down below in the comments if you have any questions about what you can do or an idea that you have that you want to know how you can do it. Ping me down in the comments. I'd be happy to reach back out to you and walk you through how to do those things. All right, so next let's jump into the next free tool that you could purchase. You don't have to purchase it. Next, let's jump into the next free tool that you could go out and get, and that is Microsoft SQL Server. So again, we're talking about a lot of Microsoft tools today. They're all free. You don't have to have any type of Office package or anything like that in order to go out and download these tools. So SQL Server is used by businesses from small to gigantic. Whether you are a Facebook or a AT&T or a mom and pop small business, SQL Server is a robust and versatile tool that you could go out and get, and it is going to be there to manage your data without any additional overhead or cost. All you have to do is download it, install it on your computer, and you could start using it. So I'm going to show you how to download it right now. All right, so your next free tool is Microsoft SQL Server. So we're going to actually choose the Express option. So once you get to the page, the link will be down in the comments. Scroll down to where it says or download a free specialized edition, and you're going to choose Express. Be sure you click download now for immediate download. Go ahead and hit save, and it's going to download the file. It's going to be super quick. You're not going to have to wait very long to get it to download. Once it downloads, you could actually click on the icon from where it says download in your browser, and it will open up the user account control, asking if you want to make changes. Once you hit OK, it's going to go ahead and start that install process. It will take a couple minutes. You'll go through the next buttons until you'll have to accept the user agreement again, and then you will get to a point where it will start installing. Once it finishes installing, you'll get to this point. It'll say installation has completed successfully. It will give you the connection string for your database. This is important to go ahead and store. Be sure that you hit the copy button and find a location either in your notepad, in Microsoft Word, someplace where you know that you could store it. So we're going to go ahead and store it in Notepad++, which is another free program that you could install if you choose. It is really just a little bit of an advanced notebook, more advanced than the notebook that you have already installed on your computer. For those of you that are going into data engineering, Notepad++ is probably a program that you do want to go ahead and get. It is something that will be widely used, very versatile across different programming languages, and is a free tool. So again, we're going to want that server connection string. The install log folder is important as well. You could go ahead and click on it. Generally, as a small business, you're not going to do a whole lot here. As a data engineer, there's some log files here that may interest you as you get further down into your learning. Installation media folder, again, not important. It's just where the media is for the installation. And then obviously the resource folder, which is where the resources are in order for Microsoft SQL Server to know what to do when you use different commands. So from here, you could either install SSMS, and feel free to do that, but I'm also going to show you Azure Data Studio, and it's a little bit newer, more advanced tool that you could use to connect to your Microsoft SQL Server, and in the future, potentially connect to an Azure SQL database. So we're not going to install SSMS today. We're going to go ahead and hit Connect Now. And what that's going to do is it's going to open up your SQL Server, and you'll see that you have some options here. It's going to actually log you into a command line interface for your SQL Server. So from here, there's not really anything you're going to do. This is just a command line interface for your SQL Server. Because we chose Express Edition, there's not anything else you have to customize or change. You can. You could hit the customize installation, and it's going to give you some options here, but we'll get to that if you want in a future video. If you have questions about that, be sure to drop some comments below, and I'll get to you and answer your questions or create a new video if there's enough interest. All right, so next we're going to jump into downloading Azure Data Studio. Azure Data Studio is a newer, cooler, refreshed version of SSMS. SSMS, again, is that free tool to use Microsoft SQL Server in a management system. So, Azure Data Studio, here we come. All right, again, be sure to check out the link to download Azure Data Studio down in the comments. Once you get to the page, go to Windows, or whichever platform you're using. For the installer, you're going to use User Installer. You could use System Installer as well. Either one, it's your preference. User Installer is specific to only you be able to use this program. System Installer will install it for anybody that uses your specific PC. So we're going to choose the x64 version of the System Installer. What that's going to do is download the package just like the previous versions. Once it does install, it is pretty quick. You'll see that it already popped up. We could click on the link that pops up. Again, user access control is going to ask us if we want to accept it. You're going to say yes, and it's going to start that download process. Very similar to the previous two processes. They're all Microsoft programs, and so you'll go through, accept the license agreement, click on next a few times, click on OK, click on complete, and it's going to install Azure Data Studio. So here it is. Again, hit I accept the agreement, hit next. You'll leave all these checked, hit next, hit install, and it's going to install Azure Data Studio down onto your computer. And that's all there is to it. Very simple, very quick, very easy, and you will have a powerful tool that you'll be able to use to access and query your data. In addition, once you do have that data into your database, it'll be much easier to make more dynamic and insightful decisions based on the data that you have available. So let's take a look at Azure Data Studio in action. All right, you'll see that I have a few databases here already linked. I'm going to show you how to link to your new database that you've just installed previously. So this little icon up here, kind of left of center, you're going to see it says new connection. We're going to click on new connection. It's going to open up a panel over here. We're going to choose the connection type of Microsoft SQL Server. For the server, we're going to go back to where we copy and pasted that information from where I told you to copy and paste it to a moment ago. And we're going to see that the connection server is going to be localhost SQL Express. And that is probably going to be the same for you as well. We're going to paste that in there. The authentication type, we're going to leave it at Windows authentication. It's going to ask us if we want to enable trust server certificate. Yes is going to be the answer. You're going to go ahead and do that. Once you do that, you'll have the option down here to change the trust server certificate from false to true. Once you set these, you'll only have to set them once. You won't have to reset them every time you go in to access your SQL server. You could choose a database here. You'll see that by default, there are these 4 databases. We'll choose master for now. We're going to hit on connect. And it is connected to our database. Super exciting. You'll see that again, you have access to the 4 databases. I'm going to show you first thing that you want to do is you're going to want to create a new database for your business or for your practice if you are an aspiring data professional. So we're going to just right click on system databases. We're going to hit refresh just to make sure there haven't been any changes. From there, we're going to go up here, right click on our server, click on new query. We're going to type create database, and we're going to name our database. You could name it the name of your company. You could name it practice. You could name it whatever you could dream of. I'm going to name it GDE for Gamble Data Engineering _dev. And that's going to tell me it's my development database for my business. I'm going to hit run. It's going to say command completed successfully. From there, you will now be able to go back into your server by clicking on the server on the left-hand side. You could, if you don't already have the database databases expanded, you could click on databases to expand that, hit on the refresh button, and you will see your database popped up in there. Now, from there, you have some dropped ledger tables. There's nothing there, but by default, it's going to have that folder in there. Now, you could right click on tables, create a new table if you want. You could right click on the database. There's a bunch of different options here. Manage, new query, new notebook, refresh, all kinds of different things. So, super exciting. You've created your first database for your business or for your practice. Another free tool in your tool belt. For those of you that are aspiring data professionals, the cool thing with Azure Data Studio that you don't have available in SSMS, you could create notebooks. Notebooks allow you to write Python scripts within Azure Data Studio. Super cool. You can see that you have an option between SQL, Python 3, or PowerShell. So another great resource for you to continue your learning as you follow your data-driven journey. All right, in order to import data into your SQL Server without doing some advanced querying, we're going to have to install a extension. So along the left-hand side, the last icon here are your extensions. You're going to search for SQL Server Import. If you type that in there, it's going to come up, SQL Server Import. You're going to click on Install. It's going to say installing. It's super quick, just takes a moment. the server the database is in, we're going to say localhost. The database is created. Oh, this is just an example. um, yes. So once that is installed, you could come back into your database, right click on your database, go to import wizard, and it's going to come up with a wizard. And somewhere, there it is. All right, import flat file wizard. So again, we're going to choose SQL Express. That's our database that we have installed here. We're going to choose the database that we want to put the table in. We're going to location of the file to be imported. We're going to click on browse, double click our sales data example. You can rename the table something different. We're going to leave it at sales data sample. We could choose a schema. We're going to leave it at DBO. Schemas are something a little bit more advanced. We could talk about those in a future video. If you're interested in having a whole video about schemas and how to create them, be sure to comment below and I will make that video for you. We're going to click on next and it is going to give us an error. Oh, important to know, if you have the file open, or if it is open because you have it open in Power BI, be sure to close it. We're going to hit previous. We're going to hit next. We're going to close. We're going to double check and make sure that we don't have this file open somewhere. I do. We're going to close it. We're not going to save it. All right, let's try this again. We'll hit next. Once you hit next, you'll see that it has all the columns in there. It has the column names, all your data. You're going to hit next. From here, you could choose different data types. For those of you that are aspiring data professionals, this is where you could make some adjustments. For those of you that are small businesses, probably want to leave it the way it is for now. As you get more in depth and you're learning and understanding, you may decide to make some changes here. Be sure that as you look down through here, you'll see these envar car. These are just really text fields. You could change these these field sizes from 50 to something bigger if you think that that field's gonna in the future hold something bigger than 50 characters. Generally, address lines especially may have more than 50 characters. Customer names, things like that, may have more than 50 characters. You'll want to go ahead and change those. There's also this option in here for a primary key. We don't have a primary key for this table, so we're going to leave that blank. And we have some option to allow nulls. We're going to go ahead and check this box. We're going to go ahead and allow nulls for everything. Or we could uncheck the box and allow nulls for nothing. So probably want to leave it the way it was to begin with, having a few of the rows selected as allowing nulls. We're going to go ahead and allow nulls for everything just to make sure that this works. We're going to hit import data. It's going to give you some just summary information about the database and the table name that it's going to go into. We're going to click on done, and it is going to have imported the data pretty quickly into your database. And we see that the table name popped up, DBO sales data sample. If you right click on that table, you can click on select top 100 and it will show you the top 100, top 1000 records in your table. You can scroll down through there. This is not editable. You can right click on here and hit edit data, which will allow you to edit the data just as easily as you were editing the data in Excel. Click on the cell, change the data if you need to change it. Hopefully, you're not making a whole lot of edits to data that you are importing from other systems. If you are, then you probably will either have inaccurate data in your database or in your system. So please do not often edit data this way in Microsoft SQL Server. So now you know how to install Azure Data Studio, how to import data into your SQL Server from a Excel file. Now, one last thing, I'm going to show you how to connect from your Power BI desktop to your SQL Server. Open up Power BI desktop. We're going to drag this over here. We're going to click on SQL Server for our server. Again, we're going to need that information that we copied earlier, localhost SQL Express. We're going to copy that, put it in the server database. We're going to choose the database that we created. We have some options here to import or direct query. Direct query means that it is a live connection to that data. Anytime that data changes, it's going to immediately change in your report. So you could choose direct query. We're going to hit OK. For your cases, since you're going to have local systems, direct query works just fine. When you are in a large organization and refreshes are only happening maybe once a day or a few times a day, import is going to be the direction that you're going to want to go. We're going to leave it as use my current credentials. We're going to hit connect, and we're going to hit OK. And it's going to connect. And we're going to check on our sales data sample. We're going to hit load. It's going to load that data same as it did when we connected to it via Excel. It's going to look exactly the same. Not going to be a whole lot of difference here. And you can manipulate it the same way that we did earlier during our example when we were looking at the Excel file. All right, so now you have some really powerful tools that were free that will get you started on your data journey. Whether you are an aspiring data professional or a small business looking to gain insights from your data that you have available to you already, you now know and have the tools to be able to take the data from the information from the systems and tools that you have, import it into your SQL Server via Azure Data Studio using the tools that you have now. In addition, there are some advanced things that you could do once you do have that data within SQL Server. You could import multiple tables into your Power BI and create connections with them. Those are things that I have demonstrated on some previous videos. Be sure to check those out. If you are interested in learning more about SQL, be sure to check out those videos here. If you are interested in learning more about Power BI and a example that I used with some Rick and Morty data, be sure to check that out here. And if you're interested in learning a more specific use of Power BI, be sure to mention it in the comments and I will address that with another video. Have a great day.